Republicans are currently working on their one big beautiful bill, the gigantic tax bill, which is going to be great for people in Elon's tax bracket, now that he pays taxes anyway, and not great for you. And also, they're looking to cut a lot of spending. And even though Doge is bragging that they've already saved an enormous amount of money with their cuts, in reality, they're not actually doing that much. They're kind of fiddling with the margins. So where's that money going to come from? Medicaid! It's going to come from Medicaid and other places, but, you know, Medicaid. Keep in mind, Republicans, excuse me, Republicans have been claiming they're not going to touch Medicaid for years. That's been their message for years now. Like, obviously they're lying, but they have been so aggressive. Was Medicaid even that big to begin with? Yup, it's huge. They are so desperate to not be publicly known as the people who are going to cut Medicaid. That's not an image they want to associate with. But look at what we're getting, huh? Republicans are weighing billions of dollars in cuts to Medicaid, threatening healthcare coverage for some of the 80 million U.S. adults and children enrolled in the safety net program. Republicans, who are looking to slash federal spending and offer lucrative tax cuts to corporations and wealthier Americans, now see a big target ripe for trimming. The $880 billion Medicaid program is financed mostly by federal taxpayers who pick up as much as 80% of the tab in some states. For those who don't know, Medicaid is administered on the state level, but primarily financed by the federal government, which means you pay your taxes to the U.S. federal government, who disperses a large portion of it to the states to pay for the state's respective Medicaid programs. That means that every state has different requirements for how they administrate their Medicaid. States say they're having trouble financing years of growth and sicker patients who enrolled in Medicaid. I'm going to say this once more. There is a way to address this. It's called universal health care. It's called Medicare for all. It's called a single payer system. One of the major problems with this spending, the reason it's so expensive, is because the government is giving private medical companies and insurance companies exorbitant amounts of money to buy this care at market rates. That's the reason why the Trump administration is making it illegal once more for the United States to negotiate pharmaceutical costs with private pharmaceutical companies. Like, if the government wanted to just get medicine for cheap, they could do it. It's the government. But Trump and the Republicans want the government to instead go, hey, pharmaceutical companies, can I give you $1,000 per pill? Could I effectively facilitate a transfer of taxpayer wealth to your private corporation so that your shareholders can continue to lobby and donate in our favor? Okay. The reason this shit is so expensive is because we are overpaying for everything, and they're doing it on purpose. Anyway, to whittle down the budget, the GOP-controlled Congress is eyeing work requirements for Medicaid. Won't this disproportionately affect older Republican voters? Elderly people are backed by Medicare, not Medicaid, though there is overlap between the two if you are both poor and old, which, tragic, but it's been known to happen. But it's going to affect a lot of poor people, and poor people did disproportionately vote for Trump in the last election. All told, over the next decade, Republican lawmakers could try to siphon billions from the nearly free healthcare coverage offered to the poorest Americans. Weeks before Congress began debating these changes, Republican governors in Arkansas, Ohio, and South Dakota were making moves to implement Medicaid work rules of their own, likely to be approved by President Donald Trump's administration. We're getting the work requirements! And other cuts could be on the way. Shrink the Affordable Care Act's Navigator program annual budget by 90% to $10 million. What Republicans are opposing? Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana has floated the idea of tying work to Medicaid. Mike Johnson, of course, the Republican speaker. This is the guy who does a mutual porn monitoring task with his son. So his son is like, have you masturbated to pornography lately? And the father is like, no, have you, son? And then they both I don't know, shake hands or touch tips or whatever. So, yeah, average Republican family, this guy. They both, look at each other's internet histories. Just normal conservative stuff. It's common sense, Johnson said. Little things like that make a big difference not only in the budgeting process, but in the morale of the people. Work is good for you. You find dignity in work. It sets you free, some have said. But about 92% of Medicaid enrollees are already working, attending school or caregiving, according to an analysis by KFF, a health policy research firm. Considering how much Republicans hate women, can you imagine if the work requirements that they put forward in red states didn't allow caregiving or like home rearing as a viable category to benefit from it? You know? Republicans have suggested a work requirement similar to the conditions for food stamps. Those aged 16 to 59 must work or volunteer at least 80 hours a month if they are not in school, caring for a child under age 6, disabled, pregnant, or homeless. So again, the conditions on this, man, the conditions on this. Those ages 16 to 59 must work or volunteer 80 a month if they are not in school, caring for a child under 6, disabled, pregnant, or homeless. What happens if you're caring for a child who's 7? You lose your Medicaid benefits. Literally, like that's it. You lose Medicaid. They're an adult now. They're 7 years old. They can go work in the mines. On average, a SNAP enrollee's monthly household income is $852. Dude, on average, a food stamp member's monthly household income is $852. This is like nothing. And the enrollee typically receives $239 benefits. $239 a month for food stamps. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's a rounding error on a balance sheet. Jesus. During a GOP House retreat last month at Trump's Golf Resort in Doral, Florida, Republicans said the requirement could motivate people to find employment. Maybe even a job that comes with health insurance. Oh yeah, I bet. The average Medicaid enrollee could just, find a job with health insurance. Rep. Darrell Issa, California, said the spending cut should not be on the back of the poor and needy, but instead target those who shouldn't be getting the benefit. Why should somebody literally sit on the beach and surf, buy their sandwiches from the food truck with their food stamps, and then... I don't know of many food trucks that accept food stamps because that's prepared food. I've never used food stamps, but I don't think this person exists. And then pick up low-cost housing and so on while writing a book, noting he was describing a constituent from more than a decade ago. First of all, what? Literally, like, cobbled from the imagination. Second of all, what's wrong with this? I think that every American, everyone in the world, ideally, should be able to eat, enjoy shelter, and so on by default, no matter what. They hate freedom. They hate freedom. But also, this is made up. Buy sandwiches from the food shop with their food. Do you know how expensive a food truck is? Here's, $13 for your deconstructed street tacos in a little styrofoam bin that we've drizzled hot sauce on or whatever. The GOP pushed through a regulatory change that allows prepared food in EBT. Yeah, but that doesn't mean every place accepts it. Don't think I've ever seen a food truck advertising they accept EBT. Also, you'd run out pretty quickly. Whatever, I don't care. See it at the grocery store, or maybe like a 7-Eleven, whatever. Other cuts on the table include a proposal to change the federal government's reimbursement to a per-person limit. That would shift the cost to states, which might be forced to make tough choices about who or what they cover. Hey, guess which states are less able to pay for their own constituency's Medicaid? Just, just think about it. Sorry, I'm looking at percent of people covered by Medicaid/CHIP. West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Canada, and New York seem to be the most thoroughly covered ones. Though, of course, things vary in terms of their requirements state to state. Did I say Canada? Yeah, we'll go with it. That's fine. Cuts to the program could prompt upset with just over half of U.S. adults saying the government spends too little on Medicaid. Only 15% say it's spending too much. The American public... Oh, literally just linking to AP Norc. Okay. The American public... Most say too little is spent on Social Security. It's mostly like old people, So orange is too much and blue is too little. Social Security, Medicare, education, assistance to the poor, we're spending way too little on that. This is all U.S. adults, by the way. And this is from 2025. Like, Republicans are really going out there, clown makeup on and everything, voting for Donald Trump, and then responding to a people with, yeah, we need to spend more money on Social Security, Medicare, education, assistance to the poor, and even Medicaid. Okay. How are people this disconnected from reality? Have you seen this is what I mean when I say don't listen to Democrats when they say the voters want them to be more moderate. When you ask Americans how they feel about any individual issue, they all vote like Lenin, Like the median voter will say, I think the Democrats and Republicans both need to tone it down. They've gotten too extreme. And then they'll be like, actually, I think the guillotine for my landlord and my boss The government needs to spend 5 times as much on Social Security spending. Yeah, I do think that a job should be a human right guarantee, and I think that everyone should get free food and housing. And it's like, and then they'll like vote Republican because they think Kamala Harris was too extreme on trans issues or something. And then they'll do a poll on trans issues, and that same person will be like, trans people should be treated with respect and not be threatened, but then vote to keep them out of bathrooms or something. I don't know. Don't listen to voters. Don't listen to voters. I thought you said meet them where they are. Yeah, I said meet them, not listen to them. You think they're also going to cut Medicare? Oh, they're for sure going to cut Medicare. Yeah. They're going to say like, Elon Musk's Doge has found immense waste, and that's the reason why you weren't able to get your appointment this month or something. Meet them, don't listen to them. So like that Dianne Feinstein clip. Listen, okay, she was cooking with something, but the application could have done a little better. Trying to see how much like mainstream media attention the Medicaid cuts have been getting. I mean, we saw this clip on stream. Look, they're still desperately trying to...
Medicaid would not be on the chopping block?
No, look, Medicaid has never been on the chopping block. What we're talking about is finding the... it's non-benefit related reforms to the program, right? Medicaid is in...
See, like, they're still trying to pretend they're not doing what they're doing. Is it legal? Steve Bannon, dire warning for Trump and Medicaid cuts, breaking points? Who's talking about this?
Very fortunate to be joined this morning by April Verrett. She is the president of the SEIU. They've been involved in a number of actions against this current government and their illegal behavior. Great to see you, April. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we can put this first tear sheet up on the screen. I know you all have been involved in some of the lawsuits.
Is how the sprint, and they seem to be throwing
to push back against these cuts.
Yeah. So first
that spans tax cuts, energy production, and border security. Put the next one up on the screen too. To your point about some unlikely bedfellows here, Steve Bannon is actually warning Republicans about this move. He says, Medicaid, you got to be careful because a lot of MAGAs are on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. So
that's actually like a pretty damning indictment too, because Steve Bannon might be the single smartest Republican strategist who actually like operates publicly. Steve Bannon has been correct in basically every component of his agenda for making the world a worse place. So please don't listen to Bannon. Go right ahead.
Talk to us about some of the efforts your union is making to push back against these cuts.
Yeah. So first, we have to know and remember 80 million Americans depend on Medicaid for their health care coverage in this country. Most of those are children, half are children, and a lot of them are seniors. And so it is just unconscionable to believe.
Would be cool if you guys did a single solitary segment on how cutting BS government spending is good and desirable. I love breaking points, man. It's so good. 99% of YouTube comments are bots anyway. Well, not mine, of course. It's genuinely difficult to find mainstream news channels that are talking about these proposed Medicaid cuts. Budget blueprints are boring. It's only a fab. Yeah, but these are potentially like the most disastrous budget cuts in mainstream American history. They might actually end up being that. So we'll see. We'll see, man. We'll see. I see the damage report covering it.
But before we do that, I just want to ask Will to come over. I've just finished signing some executive orders, and if we could start with that, Will, you might want to come up here.
Can we talk about them a little bit?
Explain what we did. Thank you.
Good afternoon, y'all. A short while ago, President Trump signed three items. The first is an executive order relating to the affordability and availability of in vitro fertilization and other fertility treatments. These are treatments that have become unaffordable for many Americans or have been unaffordable for many Americans. And the executive order is a directive to the Domestic Policy Council to examine ways to make IVF and other fertility treatments more.
Okay, this is another bullshit one. This is like we're officially saying that we're going to look into it. Gotcha.
Affordable for more Americans. The second item that we signed was a presidential memorandum imposing radical transparency requirements on government departments and agencies in keeping with President Trump and the administration's broader commitment to governmental transparency. What this presidential memorandum would do is require, as waste, fraud, and abuse is uncovered, as programs are canceled, and ultimately as taxpayer dollars are saved, this presidential memorandum would require departments and agencies to make all of the details of that freely available to the public. public. Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the primary purpose of this conference, to explain that they're all very important in their own way. Fertilization, I've been saying that we're going to do what we have to do, and I think the women and families, husbands, are very appreciative of it.
Just give me a second. I'm trying to mentally calculate how bad that last one was. I do want to say while I'm up here, I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world, and because of what we're doing economically and through... Okay, I've calculated. I think that's actually super bad. What? Is that even legal? Only the president or attorney general can state opinions on law's meaning? No, no, okay, I'm processing it now. That's entirely the judicial, that's entirely the role of the judiciary. Legal interpretation is literally the thing they do. What if Clarence Thomas goes woke out of spite from Donald Trump making his entire branch of the federal government completely irrelevant? Okay, yeah, I think that's, I don't know if anything's actually going to be done with it, but that announcement was essentially just the executive order version of Donald Trump tweeting, "He who loves his country violates no law." Like that was essentially just in so many words, I am a dictator, yeah. I don't know if it's going to lead to anything, but okay.
Tariffs and taxes and incentives, they want to come back into the United States, and we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually, and they'll be coming back, having to do with chips and having to do also with cars and lots of other things. We're going to be announcing some very big, momentous decisions are being made by companies all around the world, the biggest, and they want to come back into the U.S. Car plants are being canceled in other locations now because they want to build them here. And you read about a couple, not that I want to mention names or anything, but you read about a couple of big ones in Mexico just got canceled because they're going to be building them in the United States. And that's very simply because of what we're doing with respect to taxes, tariffs, and incentives. And I think it's a very important thing. And you'll be seeing this over the next, probably over the next 2 years, to be honest, but you're going to see a lot of it over the next couple of weeks. A lot of big ones are going to be announcing. And so while we're here, I guess we can take a couple of quick questions. Go ahead, please. Please.
Specifically what the auto tariff rate should be? Yeah,
I probably will tell you that on April 2nd.
Sorry, just the cadence there was, oh yeah, I can tell you in the future, maybe.
But it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
What about semiconductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plant or factory here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
The EU, Andrea Shalal, the EU representative is going to be here in Washington tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with Hassett and Greer and Letnick. What can the EU do to sort of avoid the reciprocal tariffs that you've talked about? And, you've talked a lot about the VAT. Do you expect them to reduce that?
Well, they did already, as I understand it, reduce their car tariff all the way down to what we have. And a lot of that will take place, and I think some won't do it and some will do it. But the EU had a 10% tax on cars, and now they have a 2.5% tax, which is the exact same as us. So already we've saved a tremendous amount. That would be great. If everybody would do that, then we'd all be on the same playing field. Because essentially what we're doing with the tariffs is, they charge us, we charge them, same amount. And it's called reciprocal, actually. And whatever they charge us, we're charging them. And
is that even true? No. Don't make me say it again.
So the EU is,
sorry.
I appreciate that they did this, but, the EU has been very unfair to us. We have a deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They don't take almost anything. They take very little. And we're going to have to straighten that out, and we will. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Russia talks, your impression of how they went today, and if you're perhaps more confident or less confident of a deal after what happened today?
Well, much more confident. They were very good. Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism.
Savage.
I mean, what's going on over there? It's soldiers are being killed by the thousands on a weekly basis. It's ridiculous.
And like no one knows how it's happening. They just do that, Russia is being mauled. This innocent Russia is their poor soldiers are being torn apart, and nobody understands why. They just do that sometimes. Yeah.
And they're not American soldiers. They're Russian soldiers, and they're Ukrainian soldiers largely, although a lot of Koreans have been killed, as you know. Quite a bit of them have been killed. They came over to fight, and a large portion have been wiped out. But we want to end it. It's a senseless war. It should have never happened, would have never happened if I was president.
I've heard this.
And it's a shame to see it. And I see pictures that you don't see, but I see pictures of fields that look just horrible. It looks like Gettysburg. If you see the old pictures of Gettysburg, it's soldiers lying all over the field, body parts all over the field. They're all dead. And this is going on a daily basis. It's a horrible thing. Both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing thousands and thousands of soldiers. And a lot of people have been killed, too. I think that's one of the things that you'll see historically, and you'll see later on as it goes along. I think people are going to be surprised at how many people, not only soldiers, have been killed in Ukraine. A lot more people than you think. Yeah, please.
President Trump, as part of a peace deal with Putin, would you be willing to consider removing all American troops from Europe?
Well, nobody's asked me to do that, so I don't think we'd have to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But that question's never really come up. Yeah.
That dick sucker found a prompt so pro-Russian that even Donald Trump wouldn't take the bait. Yeah, as a concession to Russia, would you remove U.S. troops from an entire continent, even though you're not an involved party? Like all your allies, your NATO allies, your close allies, just like remove, just completely. Would you like nuke America preemptively as a concession to Russia?
Please.
Sir, do you support stationing European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine as part of this peace deal?
If they want to do that, that's great. I'm all for it. If they want to do that, I think that'd be fine. I mean, I know France has mentioned it. Others have mentioned it. UK has mentioned it. But if we have a peace deal, I think having troops over there from the standpoint of Europe, we won't have to put any over there because, we're very far away. But having troops over there would be fine. I would not object to it at all. We're talking about this now, peace. We have either a ceasefire or a peace itself, and we're looking to do both. We'd start off with the ceasefire, and if they want to do that. I know France was willing to do that, and I thought that was a beautiful gesture. Yeah, please.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president, and I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their side. You have those.
I do like that he's answering this in a way that implies that Ukrainians have been the undiplomatic ones. Like the implication here is that it was their burden to stop this conflict from happening and to negotiate an end to this conflict. Even Saudis wanted to include Ukrainians in the talks, by the way. USA and Russia said no. Phenomenal stuff. Damn, I can't believe it was all for naught. Well, not all for naught. If it wasn't for Western support, Ukraine would have fallen completely to Russia, which would have been bad. So, Ukraine held its ground pretty well against a much larger and better armed opponent. They got a lot of help doing it, but they put the effort in. And now they're being stabbed in the back, but at least they're being stabbed in the back from a better position. They're keeping Kyiv.
Magnificent golden domes that are shattered will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. A whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago. You could have made a deal. This is one that could have made a deal. There was no talk of this during the Trump administration. Putin would have never, ever done it. And by the way, we wouldn't have had October 7th. You know that. We wouldn't have had October 7th either in Israel and we wouldn't have that mess that's going on over there. It's like we have great fire people here. We're putting out fires all over the world. We're putting out fires.
Yep.
So that wouldn't have happened. And you know what else wouldn't have happened? Inflation. Because it was caused really by the cost of energy going through the roof because of their bad energy policies and also their spending, their terrible spending, wasteful spending on the Green New scam. It's a scam. Yeah. It's a whole big scam. Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
All the Green New Deal spending.
What would it take for you to reconsider the restrictions on the Associated Press? And secondly, some of your advisors are concerned with the Associated Press's style guide, using language and giving guidance to not use words like illegal immigrant or to use phrases like gender-affirming care. And they're concerned about that being an encroaching amount of liberalism in the way in which the press writes about things. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I do think that some of the phrases that they want to use are ridiculous, and I think, frankly, they become obsolete, especially in the last 3 weeks, because many things have happened in the last 3 weeks. And I didn't know about that, but I would say that if they want to use certain phrases like that, and I guess some are okay, but many aren't, but the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it, just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only essentially, it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to be the Gulf of America. Now, the Associated Press, as you know, has been very, very wrong on the election, on Trump and the treatment of Trump, and other things having to do with Trump and Republicans and conservatives. And they're doing us no favors, and I guess I'm not doing them any favors. That's the way life works. But, thank you for the question. Who are you with? Very good question. Thank you. Yes.
Why is he talking to the third person? I think he slips into this more often now than he used to, because he's not really in command of his own positions anymore. So a lot of what he does and says is being dictated to him from an outside perspective anyway. You know what I mean? There's a kind of deep personalization. Maybe he's just senile.
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
I believe that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, what the hell? Sure.
And where a country has been blown to smithereens. You got most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site. The whole, so many of the cities. They haven't done it in Kiev because I guess they don't want to shoot too many rockets in there. They've done it 20%, but they haven't done it 100%. If they wanted to do it 100%, it would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, when they want a seat at the table, you could say the people wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, it's been a long time since we've had an election. That's not a Russia thing. That's something coming from me and coming from many other countries also.
Latest polling shows his support slinking to nearly 50%. Damn. That's going down fast. It's almost as low as Donald Trump's.
Ukraine is being just wiped out. Look at what's happening to the cities. There are cities, there's not even a building standing. It's a massive, you talk about Gaza. It's literally, these cities look like Gaza. Actually, many have, percentage-wise, more buildings knocked down than in Gaza. So,
knocked down by who? Yeah, Trump is basically doing the live speaking version of what Western media does when talking about casualties in Gaza.
Tired of it. People want to see something happen.
People died
and,
here.
Things the other happened. Thing that
buildings
been bothering me for a long time because I solved the problem with NATO. They paid hundreds of billions of dollars into the funds of NATO when I said you got to pay because the United States was paying for European countries and then they take advantage of us on trade. But I've seen it. Look, they have to pay. They have to find out where is the money going to. We have, I believe, President Zelensky said last week that he doesn't know where half of the money is that we gave him. Well, we gave them, I believe, $350 billion, but let's say it's something less than that. But it's
this is not true, but yeah. But in the negotiation package, aren't we calling to extort $500 billion from Ukraine, even though we didn't give them anywhere near that much? And that was just money that went to our military-industrial complex anyway. Like, that spending was, like, a lot of this was just us cycling out old equipment that was going to be destroyed anyway.
A lot. And we have to equalize with Europe, because Europe has given us given a very much smaller percentage than that. I think Europe has given 100 billion, and we've given, let's say, 300 plus. And it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. So I want to see peace. Look, you know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard...
He's already ceded every single thing the Russians want without Ukraine even involved in the talks. Yeah, it seems like the talks were basically unnecessary, right? Like, what's the point in America and Russia meeting to discuss terms when he will, on his own, just cede everything that Russia wants, you know? I don't know. It kind of seems like a lot of it's just theater.
Oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. He was so bad, so pathetic, so sad. But with all of that being said, look, it is what it is. When I left, there was no chance that this could have happened. But it happened because we had incompetent leadership at many different levels. But when you see what's taking place in Ukraine with millions of people killed, including the soldiers, millions of people killed, a big percentage of their cities knocked down to the ground. I don't know how anybody even lives there. You know, when they say they took a poll, and Zelensky's at 4%. Who's living there? You know, I mean, it's hard to believe that people live there. Their cities are being knocked down. And
presidents used to not comment on past presidents. Yeah, but that was always stupid bullshit. The Democrats are going to need to be at least this vindictive to survive.
This is something that would have never happened. And by the way, for 4 years, it didn't happen. It was never going to happen. Go ahead.
One follow-up question. How would you counter the perception, because Russia's pushing for this, obviously, they don't really hold true elections, that would be a capitulation of some sort? How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would...
What do you think his answer is going to be to this? We'll investigate the situation and make sure no one's going to take, you know, what's the answer to this?
Would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent, and I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine, and it was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in, don't go in, don't go in. And he understood that. He understood it fully. But I'm only interested, I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III. Over something that should have never happened. And, you know, it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
well, Elon Musk,
exact role is there?
Yeah.
This is really funny. So apparently they're trying to legally distance Elon Musk from the actions of DOJ. I don't know if they're doing this for like... I don't know if they're doing this because they fear like persecution or pushback, or like they want to exempt Elon Musk from court limitations on the behavior of DOJ. Elon's not associated with DOJ. He's just literally the guy who made it and did it and says he's the head of it, you know?
Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things. I just said, just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But you know what? Ukraine's a bigger deal because people are dying by the thousands.
Holy shit. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the other thing. Let's not focus on this, please.
Thousands a week, thousands. But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay. Maybe that's possible. 90 to 99, maybe it's possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. There are 4 million people. I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But over 120, from 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129, 3,472,000 people. Wow. That can't possibly be, because the record is I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in.
The weave.
People from 130 years old
What is
to
bro yapping about?
139-year-old.
An Elon Musk tweet. Elon doesn't understand the particulars of the way in which the code categorizing Social Security recipients is written. So he said, actually, did you know that there's 100 billion people who are 150 years old receiving Social Security benefits? Which isn't happening. And they're just running with that.
3,936,000. Wow. I wonder if people are getting paid with all this. I mean, are these checks? And that's what we're checking right now. People from 140 years old to 149 years old, 3,542,000, 140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going, because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old, 1,345,000. These are by the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well. They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people, and they love the country.
Love that. Love the president of the United States being like, so who are these, completely unaffiliated random Discord kittens that we've let loose in the federal government? Oh, don't worry. They know how to bark when I ask them to. All of this is being used as a pretext for the cutting of public spending. The question is, when are they going to go from the circus to the meat of the thing? When are they going to go from talking about it to actually cutting these? Because the moment that people start seeing their Social Security benefits cut, that is when the shit is really going to hit the fan. Up until then, they're just saying anything and everything. They just say anything. Zelensky has a 4% approval rating? Sure, why not? Yeah, I believe that.
It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old people. 170 to 179,000, 6,087. But now, let's go into the real numbers. From 200 to 209 years old, 879 people. From 210 years old, I haven't met any of them. And if I did, I would bless them. I would worship the ground they walk on. 210 to 219 years, 866. From 220 years old,
this is very
interesting, to 229 years old, 1,039. And then you have two people. From 240 years old to 249 years old, one person. And there's one person that's 360 years old. That's just that. And then, where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for a consultant on the environment. It's called Environmental, Social, and Governance Investments in Africa, and mobilize private sector resources $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. That's the most.
This is completely wrong, right? Stop asking me to say this. Yes, I genuinely don't know if I've heard a single truthful statement from Trump or Elon since the presidency began. I like genuinely, like not even incidentally, not even like a passing fact. It's nonstop.
There's been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but they, I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million for
Social Security head steps down over Doge access of recipient information. Nice. Like, there's no way that all of this doesn't precede a massive cut in Social Security spending once the budget bill comes around, Like, there's just no way. Why manufacture all this consent for no reason? They just cropped her face. Yeah, it's pretty... I thought it was... For a while, I thought it was like just me being zoomed in too far, but no. Nancy Altman, president of Social Security Works, an advocacy group for the preservation of Social Security benefits, said of Doge's efforts that there is no way to overstate how serious a breach this is, and my understanding is that it has already occurred. The information collected and securely held by the Social Security Administration is highly sensitive. SSA has data on everyone who has a Social Security number, which is virtually all Americans, everyone who has Medicare, and every low-income American who has applied for Social Security's means-tested companion program, Supplemental Security Income. Is there a reason why people resign instead of continue to do the job in opposition to their directions? Because they can be forced out. Like, you think these resignations are happening not at gunpoint? Doge has literally been like forcing people out, firing them. They're all like everyone can be fired. Everyone can be removed.
$25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice, $25 million to go into Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place.
This is so interesting.
Research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges. I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions. $10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop.
Is this the rest of the goddamn press conference?
Cohort of Cambodian youth with 2 days ago, but we're giving $21 million for voter turnout. Read this all day long. I could go on
Please
all day
don't.
long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have... Let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but not all of them, because a lot of people were let go. Don't forget, I got elected on the basis of making our government stronger and smaller, because we have millions of people that obviously they're paying millions of people that shouldn't be paid. And that has also to do with workers. Yeah, please. No, go ahead. Actually, yes, New York Times.
Sorry. Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption, you said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean...
you're not allowed in the press pool anymore. Get out of here. Mods?
I'm just hearing about it, and if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. They've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock, and he's on and I'm on, and we talk about a lot of different things. And any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that. Yeah, please.
He literally already has. He's literally already said SpaceX will step in with the FAA. He's already getting a SpaceX contract, and they've already contracted armored Teslas from Tesla. Okay.
On immigration, sir, you said you would be sending the worst of the worst to Guantanamo Bay. What we're finding out is that there are a lot of low-risk migrants who don't have a criminal background who are also being sent. Incredible. Are you thinking about this differently now?
No, they're going to be brought back to their countries. And with some...
Oh, you're telling me it was a lie from the beginning? Yeah, it's not even maintaining the original artifice or whatever, you know? Like, no, I bet those people are more dangerous than you think. He's like, no, actually, it was for everyone.
Persuasion, every one of those countries, everyone in the, as you know, every country is taking the people back. So some of them are going to be brought back to, many of them, any of them that are low risk, as you say, are going to be brought back to their countries. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Can you give us a bit of an update on where you stand with Venezuela?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Oil. There's basically a monthly license that can soon extend.
Well, you know, we had Venezuela on the run. And it looked like that was going to be very good. And when Biden came in, as he always does, he screws it up. And they started buying millions and millions and millions of dollars of oil, billions of dollars, actually, of oil. And it gave them a new lease, a new, really, lease on life. But we'll see. We had some pretty good discussions with a lot of people within our government and the United States government that are involved in that. And Venezuela's a little bit early, but, you know, we were not buying from Venezuela when Biden came in for whatever reason. Instead of just taking the beautiful, as I call it, liquid gold, we have more than anybody, they started paying a fortune to Venezuela. And we're looking at that, actually. Why did they do that? Why were they doing that? Why would they go to the enemy and give them billions and billions of dollars? Now, with that being said, as you know, Venezuela has said very strongly they will not take any illegal immigrant, any of the people that they sent over to us. They sent...
This is untrue.
Their gang's probably the worst gang anywhere in the world, as bad as MS-13, maybe worse. And they came out of the jails of Venezuela. They emptied their jails into our country.
I feel like I'm having a stroke. Yeah, I think we're entering the portion where we just get the same talking points.
And an uninterested party. I had it 4 years ago. And the Border Patrol's doing a thing like this could have happened to our country, because who would allow this to happen? What they've done to our country is so sad. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Drops microphone. Jesus Christ. Immeasurable suffering. The weave and leave. Yeah.